What's happening, everybody? It is Trey here. I'm joined again by my dad, Sean, and today we are going to go over the Beatles Past Masters.
Everybody's been asking for
Yeah, exactly. We've completed the Beatles discography, which y'all can check out below. We'll have a link there for all our reviews. Decided to do the Past Masters. This will kind of help us complete everything of note that the Beatles released.
Exactly.
So that's what we're doing today. And if this is your first time joining us, y'all, thanks for stopping by the channel. Here at Reactions to the Classics, we take a detailed track-by-track review look at some of the most classic albums of all time. And just like today, it is usually the first time we've heard the record, and if that sounds like something interesting to you, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. And if you'd like to link up with us more, we have a great Facebook group as well as a Patreon if you'd like to support us and get some perks yourself. All that to say, let's dive into the quick facts here.
Let's do it. So basically this thing is a 2-volume, 2-CD disc when it was released. In March of 1988, they were finally putting the whole catalog out on CDs. We're going to do volume 1 today, that's 18 songs. Then there'll be a second part, it's volume 2, it's the other 15 songs. And what this consists of are every variation. For example, in volume 2, the Let It Be was on the Let It Be album, obviously, but there's a different single version. Anything that wasn't on the 12 UK albums or the Magical Mystery Tour is on here, including all 4 tracks from the Long Tall Sally EP, some A and B sides of the singles. There's an American-only single called Bad Boy. And then, Trey, we have a German single. So those are all what we're in store for today. Volume 1 is the recordings between 1962, so we're going real over here, to 1965. So Trey, let's get into it. Track 1, Love Me Do.
Oh man, and we were both familiar with this track.
Of course, yeah.
It's a classic early Beatles track. This was their debut A-side single. This was released in 1962.
One obvious thing on this from the start is Lennon's harmonica, but it was at George Martin's insistence they were doing this song. He said, anybody play harmonica? And John's like, I do. I want you to have a signature sound. So you got Lennon really hammering the harmonica, and you got him and Paul kind of sharing vocal duties.
I really did notice that in a lot of these first tracks.
Yeah, the early, this volume, you get a lot of it.
A bunch of great harmonica playing in here. As for the song itself, I mean, it's just a bona fide classic.
Of course.
McCartney actually wrote portions of it all the way back in '58 whenever he was truant at age 16, and then Lennon contributed to the middle 8. And I just think it's you know, with that harmonica playing, it really drives home and propels the song. And great vocal performance here, the Love Me Do.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
signature.
It's a sound that sticks out in every Beatles fan's head and is a you know, a great track.
And this track was really important. Lennon and McCartney wanted to do their own songs, so they had to impress George Martin. So they had to work really hard, and Martin's really credited with having an open mind to this and then being able to put this thing down. Now we get into From Me to You. It's McCartney and Lennon both on vocals. This
is essentially the gist of this song, and a lot of the early Beatles tracks, they're love songs.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, you notice that in the Please Please Me with the Beatles, you know, era of their songs. That's what they are driven by. And here he's offering his affections to his lover. He'll give her everything that she wants. And I was familiar with this track as well. I really enjoyed it, and I think very strong vocal performance by Lennon. I really think he just has such a distinctive sound, especially in these early tracks. It's interesting to note how, you know, that changed even just 5 years later. But you kind of almost forget how great the synchronization and harmonies were between
because we got into the studio stuff later on, as you guys know. If you don't, watch Revolver, watch a Sgt. Pepper, watch Magical Mystery Tour, watch all those reviews. But yeah, this was just old-fashioned, we're going to sing harmonies and we're going to play our instruments. And yeah, there is a rawness that I kind of missed, you know, as we went through the catalog, and didn't realize I missed it till we rewound to this.
And then that'll take us to Thank You Girl. This is Lennon with McCartney here, the B-side to From Me to You, and this was released in '63. This was written as a tribute to the band's many female fans.
Hey, these guys are smart, Trey. They knew to write to their audience.
It features that harmonica sound that we've been talking about here.
Yeah, and it was released as a single in the US in '64 as the B-side of Do You Want to Know a Secret, and went to number 35, so a little bit of success there. I like this song. I mean, there's not any of these that I don't like.
No.
Pretty good song.
Yeah, that doesn't reach the heights of the previous two, but
No,
that's a high bar.
That's a very high bar. And speaking of high bar, She Loves You is the next offering on here. We got Lennon and McCartney singing it together, and they also wrote it. It's from August of '63. Obviously, it was an A-side. It's the best-selling single of the 1960s in the UK. The Yeah, Yeah, Yeah refrain proved an immediate, infectious musical hook. They were actually kind of known for it for a long time there. Unusually, though, the song starts with the hook right away instead of introducing it after a verse or two. Does not include a bridge, instead using the refrain to join the various verses. Even on their early albums, they like to be innovative or creative in the way they wrote their songs, and that's why all that musical speak is important, because these guys were pioneering probably even before they knew they were pioneering.
Oh, absolutely. This is also notable because it was the first single to have the Lennon-McCartney songwriting credit as opposed to McCartney-Lennon, and of course it would just keep as that Lennon-McCartney through the test of time.
Exactly.
And for me, I mean, familiar with this song as well.
Yes, me too.
As well. One of my favorite early Beatles tracks. I really enjoy the yeah, yeah, yeahs. It just has a infectious, powerful quality to it, and it stands out as one of my favorite early Beatles songs.
When this was first released in September 1963 in the US, it sold less than 1,000 copies.
And then that all changed with I Wanna Hold Your Hand getting huge success. Then this was able to chart up all the way to number 2. It eventually replaced I Wanna Hold Your Hand at number 1. That and I Wanna Hold Your Hand, heavy hitters for sure.
That takes us right into I'll Get You.
This is again McCartney with Lennon. They sing together in unison for most of the track, so the harmonies again here on point, really stand out, and the song really draws the listener in. Again, it's a love song, but it kind of has a unique twist to it.
Yeah, he's basically just telling her he loves her and he's going to get her eventually. Nowadays, you might take that a little bit of stalking or threatening, but back then, it was a good love song that all the girls liked. Which takes us to I Wanna Hold Your Hand. Lennon and McCartney singing it. Lennon and McCartney wrote it. Number 16 on the Rolling Stones Top 500 Songs of All Time. And it's the first time they used 4-track recording, so if you guys watch all of our reviews, you understand how important 4-track becomes.
And this had advance orders exceeding 1 million in the UK, would have gone straight to the top of the charts on the day of its release, but it was blocked by She Loves You, their previous UK single. It took 2 weeks to dislodge She Loves You, and it stayed at number 1 for 5 weeks, and it was also their first American number 1 hit, and it is their best-selling single worldwide, selling more than 12 million copies.
Back in the day, Capitol was so overwhelmed in the US by requests for this, they couldn't make them fast enough, so they actually paid their competitors, Columbia and RCA, to start pressing this. The song was actually written because Epstein and Martin encouraged them to actually write a song that could be a hit in America.
And this is definitely one of my favorite early Beatles tracks. Again, harmonies stand out here.
They do.
If I think of the Beatles in Suits on, Ed Sullivan or whatever, yeah, this is the song that pops up in my head. The screaming girls going nuts, and it kind of holds a special place just for almost that nostalgia it brings up.
I agree.
And that'll take us to This Boy, which was the B-side to I Wanna Hold Your Hand. And this is primarily Lennon and McCartney, but also Harrison comes in as well.
Yeah, some very complicated, intricate harmonies. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, for me, this is probably, it's tough to rank them, but my favorite harmony portion on this entire volume 1. I just think it's so incredible, angelic. I'd never heard this track before.
I had never heard this track either.
Ooh, it's nice to still be finding some hidden gems.
It's very nice to still find some hidden gems, and it's really just about there's another boy and he's going to hurt her, but this boy wants her back and he's not going to hurt her. Yeah, a top flight track.
And Lennon wanted to write a song almost in the style of a 50s Motown, Smokey Robinson, so that's where some of the lyrics and chord doo-wop type changes came into play here, and you can tell that here, and just a catchy, awesome song. And then that'll take us into
the 2 German singles, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce these guys.
She Liebdig, and I'm not going to attempt the other one.
Well, I'm impressed by that. I Want to Hold Your Hand and She Loves You. The German subsidiary of EMI, which is Odeon Records, convinced Martin they need to record these in German and they'll be bigger in Germany. I spent all that time in Hamburg in '61 and '62, but they really didn't speak much German.
Still catchy, man.
It is catchy. You know what? They actually released these as singles in the United States. They only got in the '90s, but that's really stepping out there. What they did is they were in Paris at the time. The Beatles were playing 22 straight days. They had somebody translate the lyrics. They flew them in, and they actually taught the Beatles right there in the studio, and they just kind of cut it right there as he was teaching them. So that's all in, guys. I mean, you got to give the Beatles credit.
Yeah, for sure, to be able to learn all this, and I'd be nervous, being like, oh gosh, am I going to butcher the words, this and that? But yeah, so
and it was successful for him in Germany, by the way.
Then we'll get into the tracks that were on the Long Tall Sally EP that was released in '64, around the same time of Beatles for Sale.
Exactly, these next four are those tracks.
And the McCartney track, Long Tall Sally, this was originally written by Bumps Blackwell, and Little Richard has earliest and most famous versions in '56, and this was the longest staying song in the Beatles live set, all the way back in '57 in their Quarrymen days up to their last concert. They had this in the set list throughout. I think it's a powerful song. Fits the era of McCartney. Almost doesn't even sound like him.
It doesn't sound like him at all. He could sing like Little Richard, and that's why he did it. He loved Little Richard, and so that's why he brought it on this one. So if you never looked at the lyrics of this song, they're actually pretty good. The guy singing the song actually sees his Uncle John with Long Tall Sally, but he's married to Aunt Mary, and he's going to tell Aunt Mary about it.
Yeah, I thought it was a comical,
it is,
you know, little light to it when you really dive in, and I enjoyed it for...
Unless you're Aunt Mary.
Yeah, exactly. Poor Aunt Mary, man. I like those powerful Paul vocals that...
I do too.
It almost reminded me of Kansas City. That was in
this...
Yeah,
very similar in the style.
Era with the, you know, almost the screaming powerful. So that was a solid track. And then the next track on the Long Tall Sally EP,
I Call Your Name by Lennon. He wrote it actually way before the Beatles time. It's actually on the second album, the Beatles' second album in the U.S.
Yeah, and essentially here is he misses his lover at night, and he's thinking he might be at fault for the reason that she's gone. Again, solid track.
It's a classic Lennon vocal performance. He's really shining through in the early years.
Oh, absolutely. And then we go into another Lennon track, nice back-to-back with Slow Down. This was actually a cover of a song by Larry Williams in 1957. Beatles performed it a lot in their early career, and Capitol Records released it as a single with Matchbox.
Reached number 25 on the U.S. charts. It was recorded during A Hard Day's Night time, but they didn't include it on that album because they decided that was going to be the first album that was all Lennon and McCartney songs, which was one really kind of unprecedented back then.
Yeah.
So they stuck it on the Long Tall Sally EP. I like it. It's fine. It's not. It's one of the lower level tracks for me on this. I mean, there's 18 songs and it's the Beatles, so lower level was not anything bad.
Yeah, I'd be right there with you on it. I like the previous Lennon track just a little bit more than this, but hey, man. That Lennon
and discovering songs that you said we hadn't heard before is sweet.
Exactly, it's awesome. And then that'll finish out the Long Tall Sally EP with my man Ringo getting his solo song on this volume 1. A cover of a Carl Perkins song. Huge fan the Beatles were of Carl Perkins.
Yeah, recorded tons of the songs.
And they especially would do them in the early days of their performing when you know they would pull a bunch of different covers on it. I think this should have been in place of Honey Don't maybe, but who knows? I mean, you know, all in all, it's not like a song that's going to knock your socks off.
No, but it's our boy Ringo, man.
Yeah, so, I mean, I liked it for what it was. It was kind of comical. I don't think it meant to be, but if you don't like my peaches, honey, you know, get away from my tree. Just the way he delivered the vocals there was hilarious, and I could just imagine Ringo doing that. But that doesn't prepare us for track number 14.
I Feel Fine, sung by Lennon, written by Lennon. My favorite song of all of these 18 songs is this one, and that's saying something. I had never heard this song. Oh,
me neither.
My goodness. It is fantastic. It's the first use, or one of the first uses of recorded feedback. Lennon was very proud of that. That's a long story that I won't get into here. I'll get into it on the Digging Deeper section. if you're a Patreon subscriber. Now, the Who and the Kinks are using feedback already live, but no one had ever put it on vinyl.
This song, woo, it just knocked my socks off.
It's so good. It's prime Lennon just getting after it, man.
It just starts off like very intriguing with that feedback.
Yeah, with the feedback, and the guitar sounds
what
great.
In the world? And then boom, the powerful vocals. I'm in love with her and I feel fine.
And I think when we get into the Lennon stuff here, we're not talking that Lennon wasn't great vocally later. It's just when they started using the studio as the instrument, which is fantastic as well. You don't just hear the raw voice.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great point. Some of these little, you know, nice touches and intricacies of the band get lost, I think, whenever it's so studio-based, even though, you know, those are some of the best records ever. And my favorite period of the Beatles is later.
Yeah, mine too.
You still harken back to, oh man, it is awesome to just hear them plug and play. And this song really demonstrates that. One of my favorite Beatles tracks, just in general, not even early period.
I'm with you.
And yeah, I was highly impressed and glad we were able to uncover this gem.
Me too.
Then we get the B-side to I Feel Fine. She's a Woman, written and sung by McCartney. Again, he wanted to imitate Little Richard here, and that's why it's sung in a higher register.
It was also the 12th top 10 hit written by McCartney and Lennon to chart in 1964, and that, boys and girls, is still a record. And the song is basically, she loves him, gives him what he needs. There's no presence, there's no anything. Everybody's trying to tell him he's getting played, but he's not going to hear any of it.
Yeah, again, it had that powerful vocal, almost like Long Tall Sally reminded me of that track, and I enjoyed it for what it was, man. I thought it was, again, a great vocal performance and harkened a little different flavor to the Beatles that we didn't see a lot.
That brings us up to Bad Boy by Lennon, which is another Larry Williams track. Lennon loved Larry Williams. Paul McCartney's guy was Little Richard, which has already come up twice. This second Williams one.
Yeah, and this was released in the US first because Capitol requested a song for their intensive marketing that they were doing for the lads. Essentially, this guy's a bad boy. He needs a new haircut. He has all these rock and roll records. I mean, pretty much what the lyrics say. I enjoyed it. Again, a good rockabilly type of you know, musicianship going around here, and another powerful Lennon vocal performance.
And that takes us to Yes It Is, which is Lennon with McCartney.
And this is the B-side to Ticket to Ride, written by Lennon. It is, again, almost like This Boy, features those complex three-part vocal harmonies with Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison, and shows Harrison's early use of the volume pedals. Another track, almost like This Boy, I guess because of those three-part harmonies, that was just fantastic, blew me away. One of my favorite tracks on this entire record.
Yeah, it sounds very 50s. It would fit in right there, which obviously it should, kind of the way it's constructed. Or he's just asking the girl, please don't wear red, because my ex wore red, and I'm trying to like you, but you keep reminding me of her. So I'm with you. Really good track. Brings us to our final track, I'm Down by McCartney. It's the B-side to Help. Once again, he's trying to sing like Little Richard. It's kind of a frantic song as far as like it is just, it's going, man. It's really good.
It does have that pure rock and roll style to it. Again, broken record here. Another great McCartney vocal performance, very powerful, and again showed some of the range that he had to go, you know, from soft ballads like Yesterday that were in this time period to stuff like Little Richard.
Yeah, very diverse.
And that'll take us to our favorite tracks. I know we've already touched on a lot of them in the review, but I Feel Fine, I Want to Hold Your Hand, She Loves You, From Me to You, Love Me Do. I mean, there's so many great ones.
I'm with you on all that. I mean, I Feel Fine. It's just fantastic, as we hammered already. And then, yeah, all the rest
This
of
Boy, you know, Yes It Is. I mean, could go on and on.
And because this thing is a compilation, we're not going to give it an overall grade, but keep an eye out for Volume 2.
If you don't have this in your collection,
what are you doing?
Our highest recommendation, go out, go get it. And as you said, Volume 2, be on the lookout for that, and appreciate all the research.
You got it.
And like I said earlier, y'all be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. We upload twice a week in a variety of genres. And until next time, y'all, thank you so much for watching. Happy listening, and we will see you next time.